Hi, and welcome to the most recent installment in our semi-quarterly series of market commentary videos. I am Aaron Lehman. I'm the Chief Investment Officer at Signature Financial Planning, and I am here to talk to you a little bit about how we see markets right now and where we think things might be headed really sort of through the end of the year. Now, I did make a point to say semi-quarterly because it has been a little while since the last one. The reality is markets have been moving very fast lately, and we've tried to do this video a couple times, and every time we get something written or edited or shot or ready, it would really almost be out of date by the time we could get it out to you. But things have calmed down a little bit recently, and we thought this would be a good time to come and just provide some brief thoughts on how we see the market. And I also did say brief there, because I have been instructed by several people that I need to keep this to about 5 minutes or less. Let's be real, we all know that's not going to happen, but I am going to try my best. I'm going to try and keep this short, and so to that end, I really only want to talk about one thing in this video. But I think it's a very important thing, and certainly if you've been in a meeting with me or seen me speak anywhere in the last few months, you've heard me talk about some variation of this because I think it's really important, and I think it's something that makes this very particular moment in the markets kind of unique. I've been doing this professionally just about 20 years now, and I don't remember a market like this, and I was interested in markets even before I started doing it for a living, and there are a lot of other people saying the same thing. Right now is really a moment where we're getting a lot of very, very strong, very credible, very meaningful signals from the market that are completely contradictory. The reality is, if you look around, there's a lot of reasons to be a little bit scared about markets right now, to think that there might be a large recession looming on the horizon. But there are also a lot of reasons when you look at markets right now to be optimistic and to say that the worst very well could be over and that we could be off to another rebound from where we are right now. For example, one of the most popular things in financial circles for the past month or so has been to pass around a chart where you take the chart of the first 8 months of this year and you graph it on top of the first 8 months from 2008. They're almost identical. Up at the same time, down at the same time, very similar pattern. They're right on top of each other, very high correlation. Of course, we all know what happened next, right? October, November, December 2008, it all fell apart and the Great Recession started, right? So people look at that and say, well, look, here's a warning sign. And by the way, there were a lot of warning signs that summer in 2008 that a recession might be looming, just like there's quite a few warning signs right now that a recession might be looming, and nobody really listened in those days. And so people say, look, this is what could happen. And that's just one possible sign that trouble could be ahead, right? Certainly GDP has not been great lately. Inflation has been crazy. So there are a lot of reasons to look at markets in the economy and be pessimistic right now. Strong economic indicators that say, hey, let's be careful. But there are also a lot of strong economic indicators that say we're in good shape, that we have hit a rebound. There has never been a recession, for example, when unemployment is as low as it is right now. Just doesn't typically tend to happen that way. Another really strong positive signs for markets came last week. We had what's called a high breadth week. 90% of stocks last week were above their 50-day moving average. That means that 90% of all the stocks in the S&P 500 were higher than the average price of where they had been for the last 50 days. That means the market is on an uptrend, so the average is lower than where 90% are. That doesn't happen very often, but if you add up all the times it has happened previously, the average one-year return from that week to 52 weeks later, the average one-year return is up 18.3%, right? That's not even the high, that's the average. When you have a 90% above moving average week like we had last week, the average return for the next year is 18.3%. Those situations typically tend to happen towards the end of declines, not necessarily right at the bottom. Sometimes the market continues to go down after that, but a year later, on average, you're up 18.3%. So that's a very positive sign, and that's just one of many positive signs that are out there in the economy that are sort of dueling with all of these negative signs that are out there in the economy right now. And so to bring this back to sort of how we are looking at portfolios and accounts right now, I will say two things. The first is that, of course, everything I say here is very general and 30,000-foot overview, and how any of this pertains to you and your specific account, your specific situation, that's a conversation for you and your advisor to have. But from a broad perspective, what we're sort of prioritizing right now really is just flexibility. It's not overcommitting too much in either direction. It's not getting scared and getting super defensive and going to cash and loading up on all this protectionary stuff for the accounts, because that worst case scenario might not come to pass. but it's also not getting super aggressive and loading up on a bunch of crazy tech stocks and saying, hey, let's party like it's 1999. We're not ready to do that either. We have plans for what we would do in either of those situations, but we don't yet think it's time to activate those plans. What we've seen in the markets the last few weeks especially is just a lot of chop. It's a lot of up, it's a lot of down, but never really going anywhere. And the reality is that's very indicative of, of August, first of all, because half of Wall Street's on vacation right now. And it's also indicative of periods in the market where the market is trying to digest a move and then decide what to do next, right? We had a big decline. We've had a nice little rally off of those bottoms now, come back almost halfway. And now the market is sort of pausing and deciding what it wants to do next. So right now, really what I'm saying to you is we don't know what's going to happen next. And so I'm already over my 5 minutes, and I do need to wrap this up. So I'm actually going to stop there. And I'm going to leave this with a cliffhanger ending. And I'm going to tell you you're going to have to come back next quarter to find out how all this turns out, because let's be real, I'm trying to raise our view counts here a little bit. So what we're doing is just keeping a close eye on the market. We have a plan for how we would react if things go down. We have plans for how we would want to react if things go up. But neither one of those things has happened yet. And until we get some clarity on which scenario we're going to see, we think now's the time to just wait and watch and be cautious. Obviously, everyone's specific situation is different, but that's how we see things. So thank you very much. If you have questions about any of this, please reach out to your advisor, reach out to us here at Signature. We would love to talk to you. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next quarter-ish.